topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the hosts and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Good morning, Tampa. I hope it's as beautiful there as it is here today in South Florida on the other side of the ocean. We've got a great show today, and we've been running our TV, and I want to thank everybody for the wonderful emails that you have been sending us. Really means a lot, and all the new listeners that we're getting and viewers. Today is a longtime expert with us, but this is her first time on TV with us. And we're so blessed to have her. We're going to be talking about estate planning, and she is so good at it. And let me welcome you to attorney Debbie Baker.
Well, thanks, Steve-O. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
She's got this, if you're not watching on TV, she's got this huge smile, and she's just a wonderful hearted person. She's a lot like me. I'm a believer, and so is she, and that's all I'll bring up about religion. But Debbie, we are so happy to have your firm, and we're going to spend the next 25 minutes talking about estate planning. But before we do that, since you're new to the TV, tell everybody about yourself and your practice.
Okay. I counted the days yesterday, but in a little, just over 8 weeks, I will have graduated from law school 8 years ago. It's kind of my second career, I guess, but it's been a walk of faith. It was something I considered when I was younger, and I always had great excuses. I owed too much money for undergraduate loans, which compared to what I owe now is like a cup of coffee. I wasn't going to take contracts and torts because I thought I was too old for it. That was the second one. But God told me to go to law school, and then it was a 32-month voyage to get there, journey to get there. I went part-time to Stetson here in Florida. It was probably the best 4 years of my life. I forgot I loved being in a classroom, and I love to learn. And in the world of reality, I was the oldest person in the room, so who cared about the grades or what professors wanted to be called or anything else? So I graduated in May of 15, and I chose this area of practice because I'd been an executive life coach, whatever you want to call a personal coach, for over 30 years prior to that. And my driving force has always been to be of service, and estate planning is just a great place.
Absolutely. Before we go any further, let me just tell everybody today's show is brought to you by the law firm of Kemp, Rouge, and Green Law Group. They represent clients who've been injured, whether it's by auto accident, slip and falls, dog bites, motorcycle accidents, wrongful death, as well as property claims. Call them today at 727-835-8327. We're here with attorney Debbie Baker. You know, Debbie, let's just start off with something easy. What is estate planning?
Okay. Estate planning is the process an individual or a family goes through to be sure that when they die, their estate, whatever that is distributed, taken care of the way they want. And more importantly, part of the essential ingredients are documents that exist for you while you're still alive. And that those documents are designed to have you choose who you want to represent you as in financial matters, in health matters, guardians, And the thing that I've learned is, I had somebody yesterday tell me they didn't have an estate. They didn't have an estate. And I went, well, that's not really true. I said, you have a checking account? And they said, yes. I said, well, then you have an estate. So, and they said, but no.
People
I said,
mix
well,
up
yes.
estate planning thinking you have to have some huge estate, but that
Yes.
just isn't true.
They think you have to have wealth, however they define that. They think you have to own a home.
Right.
And they think you have to have children. So they're wrong on all counts. And
Agree.
I'm really sympathetic to people who think that, because there's no reason for them to think otherwise. So part of my role in terms of being of service is to educate the person who calls and says, I don't have anything, to say, well, you're wrong. You can do something, not do something, but really understand, if you leave your family without a plan, the state, any state you live in has a plan. It's called intestacy, and it's expensive.
Well, I'm going to let you say that. You know what? I got to tell you, even, and do you work on wills at all? I want to make sure before I go into
Yes.
this.
So part of a basic estate plan is your will, which is your
Yes.
testament. Okay. And that's what's the legal expression? It's how you want to dispose of your bounty. Bounty just could be your CD collection. It could be your books. It could be whatever. That's the will, and that doesn't go into effect until after.
I got to tell you, there's people. Everybody says, "Well, I don't have enough money for a will." There was a big rock star. His name was Prince, who passed away, and I was shocked with all the management people he has around him. He did not have a will. I was just blown away by that.
Right. Yes, it's quite amazing. People think they have things to. So what I've learned is will can often be, if an estate plan has been done effectively, it can just be a catch-all for anything that you forgot to designate to go to somebody. But I too am amazed that anybody who has any wealth, regardless of whether they're the pop star like Prince, somebody doesn't come to them and say, have you made provisions for what happens to you if you die? I mean, I think Kobe Bryant had one, but there's a great example of a complete because I don't remember how Prince died, but Kobe Bryant was a complete tragedy. And I think he had a plan, but had he not, his wife would have gotten everything, but who knows if that's would have been what he wanted in terms of the fact that he had children.
Right. Yeah. And, even Larry King, the big talk show host, I heard that he made his will out on a napkin, leaving. But what we're trying to say here is you don't have to be a multimillionaire to get a will. And we never know what's going to happen in our life.
Right.
And COVID sure proved that. So you can say I'm healthy and I don't need a will. I don't need an estate plan. Wrong. Because you never know.
You never know. Yeah. We all know of people who left the house in the morning and didn't get home that night.
Exactly. So that's why, we bring you shows like Attorney Debbie Baker, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to educate you, because there's so much education out there. And if you're not proactive, you're not going to find out about it. And that's why we have shows like we have here. Let me ask, Debbie, who would you say needs to have an estate planning?
Okay. There's something that I learned a long time ago, actually, before I became an attorney. At 1 second after midnight on anybody's 18th birthday, they need a plan. They need the documents that work for them while they're alive, because, so let's just say you were turning 18 tomorrow, Steve. Your mother could call your doctor and say, I need to set up an appointment for Steve. She could call the registrar at your school, get it. The next morning at 1 second after midnight, if she calls the doctor and he talks to her, he's really violating HIPAA laws. If she calls the school and they talk to her, they're violating privacy laws. So anybody over the age of 18, which is really hard to imagine because all of us thought we were grown up at 18, but we weren't. And so it leaves our parents in a tough space. The other thing I learned a long time ago is people die at the age of 18, and they die in tragic circumstances, car accidents. Without a will, any money from a settlement can go to somebody they'd never want to have it. And the first story I heard was a young man who died as the result of a car accident. There was a settlement. He had no will, and the settlement was divided equally between his parents, and he hadn't seen his parents since he was a year old, his father since he was a year old. But the law said it had to go. So had he had a will, the money would have all gone to his mother. But anybody over the age of 18. After that, over the age of 18 is really a great starting point. But when you get married, you want to do something so you name each other. If you buy a home, you want to do something different because what do you want to have happen to the home? If you've got children, you want to do something different because who's going to raise the children if something happened to you? And I get it that we don't think we're ever going to die before we're 90, which means our children will be 70 and they can probably or 65 and they can take care of themselves. But like you said, there's no promise. So it's really a pretty universal need. And so the reasons people don't do it, they don't think they have anything. We've already covered that. They think it's too expensive, but they've never checked it out. And we've all had that. We all have that experience.
Yes.
You know, I go to buy a flat screen TV and they tell me it's X number of dollars. I've never priced a flat screen TV, so I don't know. Now, if I call my friends and say, "What'd you pay for your flat screen?" and they give me a range, I go, "Oh, that wasn't so bad," but they don't check it out. And the third reason, truly, and I've had a couple of people tell me this, but it's true, they think they'll die as soon as they plan. There is no doubt they're signing their death warrant as soon as they plan. So they, which it's hard not to laugh at, but it's very heartfelt. I mean, they are convinced.
Debbie, look what happened with Terry Shively. I mean, here's a woman who did not have a will,
Right.
And she got sick, and she left everybody in a kind of a bad, because she thought by telling her husband she did not want to be resuscitated, but there was no will.
No,
and
it wasn't the will. It wasn't the will. It was her. Oh, goody, the camera. It was her healthcare surrogate and living will. So she had given her husband no written directions, and her parents could have contested what he wanted to do regardless. They could have, but they wouldn't have anything called standing because he had priority as her husband. And so the sadness of it was, if we go with their the husband's and his attorney's presumption that she did not have sentience, so she didn't know what was going on. The process involving the Florida Supreme Court, almost the U.S. Supreme Court, it lasted years longer than it had to had she had the document. So the tragedy is, and the thing, a book for people to read is called Medicine in the 11th Hour. And it's about, you want to make these choices because the grief your family goes through when you're ill is made multiple times worse when nobody has a direction for what you want. And what I tell people with those is, if you and I are siblings, Steve, and our mom wants a plug pulled and you're in charge, okay, and I want them to keep her alive, you hold up the document to my face and you see, Deb, do you see what our mother signed? I get it, because you have to appoint the person you trust. Even if they don't agree with you, they just have to be willing to do what you want. And that's true for every role. So in Florida, wills are personal representatives, powers of attorney are agents, healthcare surrogates are surrogates. I don't know why they can't all have the same name, but they all have different roles. And when the family shows up to argue, the one with the document and the authority is the one that says, we're doing what this person wanted. It was their choice, not ours. And they made it. I have one client, I don't know that she'd choose the same thing today. She probably would, but she wants to be kept alive no matter what. No matter what. that will be, if something happens, that will be on her family to do. But those are her wishes. So it's really hard. Terry Schiavo is the example I use
Yes.
all the time for people.
What are some of the documents that make up this plan, this estate plan?
So the will we talked about, that's called where you do your bounty. But the ones that exist now while you're alive, or your power of attorney, which is where you give somebody access to your financial wherewithal. They can go to the bank and write checks on your account. They can access your account. If you choose, they can change beneficiaries on those accounts. Something that we put in is a clause that allows that if you need Medicaid planning, which is not necessarily Medicare is age-based. Medicaid is not necessarily. But if you experience a situation where you need governmental support for long-term care or something like that, your power of attorney can do that. So it's all the financial aspects for your power of attorney. Your healthcare surrogate is just that. It's you naming somebody who can make healthcare decisions for you. They can never override you as long as you have the mental wherewithal to say, what are you thinking? No, doc, we're not doing that. You have precedent. But the thing is, I know I recommend people sign them to go into effect immediately, because if your loved one's in a car accident and they can't decide, they want somebody to be able to decide. And that person also has access to your medical records. Then they have a HIPAA waiver, where we're probably all familiar with HIPAA and privacy. And that's where you give people access to information. So again, let's say we're siblings and there were 3 others, and I'm the healthcare surrogate and you're my backup. Our parents might give the other 3 siblings access to talk to the doctor, not to make a decision, but to talk to the doctor. And I ask clients, do you want the rest of them to be able to talk to the doctor? No decisions. So that's your HIPAA waiver. Those are the 4 basic ones. In Florida, I do a pre-need guardian. So if you become incapacitated to the point of needing a guardian, you've already named who you want. So again, the family doesn't go to court and say, no, mom wanted me. No, mom excluded you, actually. Read the document. And the last one that's part of the basic plan is a document the living will is how do you want to die? So at what point do you want the doctors to pull the plug, so to speak? So that's the living will. That's part of the basic. But there's one about what do you want to do after that? Do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Where do you want to be scattered? Where do you want to be buried? Do you want something special in terms of religious observance? What do you want? I have somebody right now who her husband wants his ashes scattered at a wildlife management area in upstate New York. Well, probably that's not allowed. So the language will say as allowed by applicable law, because they need to be on warning that be careful. And I don't want them coming back to me and saying, we told us we could do this. No, I didn't tell you could do that. It says as allowed by applicable. So my first mentor taught me that. That's what you put that in. Any place somebody wants to be cremated and ashes scattered other than someplace So those are the basics for the estate.
Debbie, I think you got a beautiful heart, but in the estate planning field, it must be tough when there's families that are arguing about who gets what.
Well, that was one of the reasons God said, don't you dare go into a courtroom.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's probate litigation. That tends to be after the fact. Okay. I invite families while we're planning to ask. Well, I invite families, clients. I said, I want you to give away everything you have right now that you want somebody to get, because 2 reasons. 1, let me enjoy it, or them enjoy it while you're alive. And B, if it's not in your home when you die, they can't argue about it. So the emotional reason is just give it away. The calculated reason is get it out of the house. And people say, well, my kids will never argue. And I go, well, you may be right. But sometimes they do over the smallest of things. That happens after the fact. And that's when I call my friends who do probate litigation and say, hey, have at it, because I want no part of this. the sadness for me for the estate planning is clients who don't agree on who they want to appoint. I'm finding interest in Florida has a unique rule about who can represent you for your estate. They have to be a blood relative. Okay, a blood relative. So your maternal or paternal aunt can't be your uncle-in-law, your aunt, can't be an in-law, or they have to live in Florida. So what I've seen several times with people who've moved to Florida, they have no family here. All the people they have are somewhere else, and they really don't have anybody to represent them for their will because they haven't formed the friendships or the trust for that, and that's really tragic. So that's sometimes where it comes up. And with young couples, it's that, you want to appoint Joe and Susan as guardians for your children. And your wife goes, Joe and Susan, those are the last people I'd appoint. What are you thinking?
You're going to be back with us again next month. And boy, I know, because I'm getting the text messages. We only have a few minutes left, but people want to know, how do you choose that person? And I promise you, we will get to that next month.
Well, you make a note of that, and I'll remember it too.
I will definitely remember that.
Okay.
And if you're watching on TV now, you can see we've been scrolling Debbie's office number. But if you're listening on radio, Debbie, give everybody the phone number.
Okay, so the phone number is, it doesn't matter where it is, but it's in Tampa. It's 813-586-1332, which is one Deb, because I wanted something, whatever. And the email address is debbaker@London, like the city, londonbakerlaw.com. I'm only licensed in Florida, but if you're out of state, whatever, I will talk to you and answer whatever I can as general information. Part of my walk of service is, if I can help, I'll help. And if I can't help, I'll see if I can find somebody who can.
Now, see, you know what? That should show you where Attorney Baker is coming from to make a statement like that. I am so glad. I feel so blessed that we have her firm and she can't say this, but I can, as our expert in estate planning. And I promise you, we will get to all your questions, because I'm going to write them all down this afternoon. And I promise you, next month when Debbie comes back on, those will be the first questions. Debbie, thank you so much for joining us, our first TV show.
Thanks, Steve. Oh, thanks, DJ producer. I appreciate that too.
Yes.
Have a great day.
She's such a stuck up DJ. See you soon.
So long.
That is attorney Debbie Baker. She's actually been with us over a year now, but this is her first TV show. We're so lucky to have her. My next show, which I cannot wait to do, you're not supposed to have favorites. We're in 8 different cities. We've got roughly about 60 experts. And I got to tell you, our next expert is one of my favorites. She is, and she's not probably allowed to say this, but I can. She is one of the finest personal injury attorneys. And I should know, because we've got other personal injury attorneys in our other markets, but she is her reputation is so well known, because we have had attorneys contact us after they heard her show saying, how can I get a show like that? And I just want to tell you that we don't have an opening, because we've got one of the greatest personal injury attorneys in the Tampa area. And I think this was always so important in the back of our mind, because, you see personal injury attorneys everywhere, on buses, on billboards, radio, TV. They're everywhere. I grew up with yellow pages, and it was who had the biggest yellow page ad was probably the best attorney. And that's just not how you go about choosing an attorney. So we're waiting for Stacy to come on now, and she should be coming on any minute now. But we're going to talk about personal injury law, which is, auto accidents, slip and falls, dog bites, truck accidents, boating accidents, wrongful death. So when you say personal injury, there's a lot of different areas of personal injury. And we're going to talk about auto accidents. And Stacy Kemp is there. She is.
Hi.
Hi, Stacy.
Hi, how are you?
We're doing fine. I was just talking about you. And before we go any further, I was telling him, they've got so many choices when it comes to personal injury attorney, but just because they're on a bus doesn't mean they're good. What we were able to do is get the best personal injury law firm in Tampa. And in fact, today's show is brought to you by Stacy Kemp. It's Kemp Rouge and Green Law Group. And if you would like, because we like it when our listeners contact our sponsors, if you'd like to give her a call, you can call her. We're running her phone number down below on the screen, or you can call her at 727-835-8327. With Stacy's show, we do it a little bit different. We are always promoting her show that you can write your questions in and Stacy will answer them. Because a lot of people are in their car. They don't have we get people saying, I didn't have a pencil. But let's welcome attorney Stacy Kemp.
Hi, good morning, guys. It's a pleasure to be here on this wonderful Monday. And I'm excited to answer any questions that you guys have anytime.
Oh, we've got so many questions. But before we go to the questions, Stacy, we've got about 100,000 people now. Tell people about your law firm.
So my law firm was founded in 2008. I am feeling extremely old now.
Yeah.
I started out doing family law, and I quickly realized that area of law wasn't really something I wanted to do long term. And so I started doing personal injury law, which is car accidents and slip and falls, injuries, really anywhere. And then, we just started growing the firm over time. We have over 60 employees now. We run our firm a lot different than a lot of injury attorneys. So we only have our clients speaking with lawyers and not just paralegals or assistants. We want to make sure that our clients are able to, feel confident in the person that's guiding them and helping them. So we make sure that they get to talk to an attorney at our firm. And we have people that work for the insurance companies in the past and such a wide array of experienced lawyers. And we get just really, really great results for the clients.
Well, I got to tell everybody, I'm not going to use names at all, but we actually, over the last year and a half, have gotten many calls from personal injury attorneys who heard who saw Stacy's show and decided they wanted to show just like it. Now, that doesn't happen with a lot of our categories, but it does with personal injury law. And I told them that we only have one personal injury attorney. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is, Stacy, it is so amazing. Usually, when they're competitors, they'll say something a little negative. But here's your peers out there, personal injury, and they'll say, oh, Stacy's law firm is really a great firm. And we have this never happened to me before, tell us something negative, when they find out they can't get the show. But I thought that was really amazing that you've got such a great reputation.
Well, not only do we try to do a good job for our clients, we take a lot of pride in client satisfaction, communication, but we also take a lot of pride in our community. So we give a lot back to our community. We help people in need all the time. So it's not just about like advertising and, being a lawyer. It's also about like being a good business person and providing a good service to people and also giving back. So we try to do things all around, not just focusing on just the advertising portion of it.
Good for you. That's very important. So, and we just got a text in just now. They just turned the show on, and you were first starting to talk about other areas of law you do. Can you repeat those areas of other areas besides personal injury? And that's from Jackson.
Well, hi, Jackson. We primarily practice in personal injury. We have a small property division that will do like first party property claims. So if you have roof damage or hurricane damage or something like that, we have a criminal defense attorney that helps people if they've been arrested. And we have a family law attorney as well that helps with divorces, custody, child support, issues like that. But 90% of our business is personal injury, and that's what I primarily focus on.
Okay. So this is one that came in actually this week. It's from John. And I'm using his, though we got about 10 emails and texts, just like John's. He wants to know, what can I do if the person who hits my car doesn't have auto insurance?
So unfortunately, that does happen. You are required to have auto insurance in Florida. But if we're talking about an injury claim, even if someone has auto insurance in Florida, bodily injury coverage isn't required. So there are many times where you could be hit by someone who has insurance. They still don't have injury insurance to cover your out-of-pocket medical expenses, pain and suffering, future meds, lost wages, all that stuff. So that's why we really talk about what can you do to protect yourself, because you can't drive on the road and just hope if you get in an accident that it's someone that elected injury coverage, because a lot of people don't. So really what you guys should do is make sure you look at your deck page on your policy and make sure that you get uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage. And the purpose of that coverage is to cover your injuries, like I said, medical bills, future meds, pain and suffering. If someone hits you without insurance and injury coverage, that your coverage will kick in, right? Now, it's not required to have that either. So it's elective and you have to elect to have it. But if you have it, it will protect you. And you should really have limits sufficient to protect you if you were really, really hurt. If you broke a bone or you were out of work for a few months, you want to make sure you have enough coverage, uninsured, underinsured motorist coverage to carry you and not worry about what other people have. It's just comforting to know you cover it yourself. You don't have to worry what other people have. And then I know it makes me feel better. And it also covers everyone in your household. So I have a daughter that drives, another one that's going to be driving soon. So because I carry it, it carries over to my children that live with me, and it carries over to any resident relatives that live with you. So when you get it, you're protecting everyone in your house. And that's why it's just really super important to have. But are you there, or did you disappear on me?
Go.
Oh, there you go.
See, listen, it even happens on Fox TV. We were talking about is all the people that are writing in, Stacy, and what we were just talking about is if you have been harmed by somebody who doesn't have insurance, what do you do?
Yeah, so you went away, but I was still here. So I just explained it pretty in depth that it's really important to have the uninsured motorist coverage. And the cool thing about it is that it covers everyone in your household. So it doesn't just cover you, but all your resident relatives, your children, if they're in an accident, even if they're in someone else's vehicle, and it also covers them in their own vehicle. Like I said, I have a child that drives, and so I make sure I have it because it covers her, it covers me. Everyone in my house is covered. And it gives you peace of mind to not worry about what everybody else has on the road, but to just make sure you have what you need. And that's where you need to check your deck page and make sure you have that.
Okay. This is from Randy. He wants to know, do you still handle cases by Zoom?
So a lot of litigation, like judges and mediations and depositions, a lot of those things are still being done by Zoom, not because we can't go in person, but because it's really just more efficient. And it's become just more accepted. Even the judges are doing it because their calendars are more efficient. They can work from anywhere. And when you take out the driving part of,
yes,
of these appearances, you can fit more in. The mediators can do more. The attorneys can do more if we're not driving back and forth to do things. So we are still we push for Zoom appearances just so we can get more done and get more accomplished. So I think it's just as effective. We do mediations by Zoom. Like I said, depots, court appearances. We do a lot of just talking to clients via, video and things like that. So we've been taking it and using it to our advantage because it's just more efficient for the firm to run that way.
This is from Sunny. I found your show this morning by accident, but I'm really enjoying it. I hope to get more shows like this. He wants to know, is when you do a consultation, is it free?
It is. So every single consultation that we do is free. We work basically on what's called a contingency fee, which means we don't get paid unless you get paid, right? So if it's a case that we can take, and we can't take every case, sometimes it's not a case that we think is viable for you, and maybe we don't want you to incur bills that we don't think are going to be paid. And that happens when there's, liability issues and things like that happen in cases. Maybe it's unclear. And the governor just signed a new bill last week that changed some laws in Florida regarding personal injury claims. And the way the law used to be was it was called comparative negligence, which meant even if you were 75% at fault and say your damages were 100,000, right? If you were 75% at fault, you could still recover the 25,000 that you weren't at fault, right? The 25%.
Wow.
The governor just changed the law last week. And now
you like that law?
I do not.
Okay.
We are no longer a comparative negligence state. We are now a contributory negligence state. What that means is that if you are any percent above 50, if you are 51% at fault, now you can't recover for your 49. Okay. I think it's a windfall for the insurance companies. Why? Let me tell you why, right? Because if you had two parties and one was 49 and one was 51, they could each recover their percentages they weren't at fault, right? So the insurance would pay 49% of the one and 51% to the other, correct, right? The insurance company was still paying 100% of the damages out.
Right.
Now, the person that's 51% or that's 49% is still only going to recover 51%. And the person that's 51% gets zero. So the insurance company basically gets a free ride on not covering 100% of damages from an incident because they're only having to pay to the person that is less than 50% and the other person gets nothing. I think it's wrong. I think it was a windfall for the insurance companies to get contributory negligence in the state of Florida. I don't think that just because and if you think about it this way, you could be on a motorcycle, right? Not wearing a helmet, and your injuries you could get railed by a truck, okay, and thrown. And if your injuries are found to be the result of your not wearing a helmet and not the majority from the impact, you could lose your claim because of that. So I just don't think that it's fair to decide that just because you have some liability or even the majority of the liability, if some of it's not your fault, you should be able to recover the portion that's not your fault. So, like I said, the insurance companies and their lobbyists were the ones that wanted this law. None of the plaintiff attorneys wanted that in place because we just don't think it's equitable and fair. And it's unfortunate that the bill passed, but the insurance companies they carry a lot of weight and a lot of persuasion. And so they were able to do a lot up there this session to help their bottom line. And it definitely wasn't in the best interest of the citizens and the injured parties in the state of Florida. Steve, are you still there?
Up to Tallahassee,
okay,
and kick some behind. What a horrible law.
Yeah, it was very unfortunate. And all the plaintiff attorneys were really trying to rally together and get the legislators to understand that really wasn't something they should do. And they did a lot of things. They also reduced our statute of limitations in Florida from 4 years to 2 years.
Wow.
So we no longer have 4
You love that one too.
Well, I mean, most of my cases aren't that old anyways, but there are times when someone is seriously injured and they need to continue treatment, and you don't want to cut them short if they need more treatment, more surgeries. You know what I'm saying? Yes. And so really, when we have the opportunity to settle cases without going into litigation, which all that does is force you into litigation after 2 years, right? When you otherwise wouldn't have had to. So all it's doing is flooding the court system with more litigation cases when it could have been cases that we resolved without having to go into litigation. So by changing that law, it's not going to prevent claims. It just means litigation has to be filed by 2 years instead of 4, which of course we're going to do because we're going to follow the statute. But now you're forcing people into litigation earlier. So it really just, it's stupid. It's not useful. It's going to create more cases in the court system and clog up the court system, which means people don't get to trial as quickly and, they get delayed. They don't have enough judges, all of that. So that's all. It's not really beneficial to anybody. I don't know why they changed that, but yeah, now in Florida, we no longer have 4 years. It's 2 years. And there were some other things that they changed as well that we really disagreed with, but it was to the benefit of the insurance companies. So the legislators went ahead and passed it anyway.
I want to get this in for those of you who are watching on TV today. We're scrolling Stacy's office number right below, and we do it throughout the show. But if you're listening on radio, Stacy, give everybody your phone number.
Yes, so the easy one to remember is 727-847-HURT, or you can just dial pound HURT on your cell phone. That's the easiest way to get in touch with us. And HURT is 4878. So 727-847-4878 or pound 4878.
Okay. I got to tell people especially, not everybody's been involved in an auto accident before. But when you are, Stacy, what is the first thing they should do?
So the first thing you should do, obviously, is make sure you and everyone involved is okay, right? Because you might need a call for an ambulance and you need to call the police right away and report the accident. Some people make the mistake of not wanting to be bothered by calling a police officer out to the scene. Now, you don't always know if you're hurt. A lot of people, your adrenaline's running and you're going and you think you're fine, right? It's not till a day or two later when it starts sinking in and then you start getting sore and you don't realize it at the time. And then liability becomes an issue in every accident, right? And I just told you about this new law. And so if there's an accident where no one knows who ran the red light, Well, now it's what, 50-50? Who's going to hop that 51 and bar their claim right now in the state of Florida, where that used to not be an issue? So the important thing is to call the police, have them come out to the scene, have them do an investigation so that they get a report that's written and it at least has their expertise opinion of what they think happened in the accident. Immediately look for video. With this new law that's in place, you want to be sure you have proof that you weren't at fault. You don't want your claim banned. So look around. Are there any businesses? I've even gotten video from a Ring doorbell before, okay? Look around. There could be video, dash cams, anyone with a dash cam. And I really strongly suggest that everyone drive with a dash cam. It is so helpful. You just pull it right out, save it to your phone. You can provide it to the police officer. There's so much you can do. And right now, evidence in Florida is going to be important. And it's going to be important because they just passed this law changing the 51%, barring your claim. So you want to preserve that evidence that you can. And you can create evidence of your own by having a dash cam. Steve, do you have a dash cam in your car?
Well, I don't, but I'm going to get one.
Steve, gosh, how many times have I told everyone about these? I even give away dash cams.
I remember when you did that.
Yeah.
That shows you how important it is, though.
It really is, especially now. You get into a situation where this person's saying they're not at fault. You're saying you're not at fault. Now it's he said, she said. If there's no witnesses, if there's no cameras, have your own camera. Protect yourself.
Great idea. What a great idea.
Your claim could be barred. So back to what Steve asked me, because I get like on these tangents where I want to tell you all these things I think are important, like dash cams.
I love your passion.
Obviously, you want to preserve that evidence. Call the cops and preserve that evidence. That's what you need to do. Take photos. You can take videos of the scene, find videos, get your dash cam, write down any names of any witnesses. You can also video the at-fault person, right? You know how many times they'll like make excited utterances at the scene, like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I was just looking at my phone for a minute, or changing the radio station, right? Now you have to tell people you're videoing them, obviously, but you can say, hey, I just want to take your statement. What happened? You're on video, you consent, and you'll have their statement. If they want to go change their mind later, now you already preserved it. So I know it's hard to think of all of those things when you're in an accident, but your mind has to be on, how do I preserve what evidence is there to show that I'm not at fault, and think about how to gather that data. Because after the fact, it's just much more difficult to do. And we try to do it. We try to get videos after the fact. We call businesses, we send investigators out to try and get videos, and we do whatever we can to gather the evidence. But it's always better the closer you are to the incident, because videos get erased. Sometimes they don't hold them for however many days or months, depending on when you decide to get a lawyer. It's better if you educate yourself on what you can do at the time to preserve your claim. And like I said, this new law, preservation of evidence, is just going to be that much more important.
Do we lose? Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. I see you.
So, you know what? We're having a huge windstorm here in South Florida, and it's been crazy here. I guess that's what's knocking us off the air. And now I got to leave now. So I got to get this in, because we have had so many people try to call. So I want to get at least this one in. Do you handle cases in Sarasota?
So we actually have attorneys all over the state of Florida. We have attorneys in Jacksonville, Tallahassee, Miami, Orlando, Fort Lauderdale. So we handle the entire state. We even now have added Georgia. So we have a few attorneys now that are licensed in Georgia. So we take cases in Georgia. It doesn't matter where you are, we can handle it. Most of our cases settle pre-suit. We try to, right? Because once it goes into litigation, the attorney's fee goes up. So we try to get cases settled pre-suit if we can. And then if we go into litigation, we have attorneys all over. So there's no issue with where you're located. We're able to still make sure you get the right treatment that you need and handle your case wherever you are.
Stacey, we got about a minute left. Let's give everybody your phone number again.
Yes, it's 727-847-HURT, which is 4878, or #HURT on your cell phone. So 727-847-4878.
Well, we are so lucky to have you. We will be playing this show over again this I guess it's next week. Yes, we play it over again. And please keep sending your questions in, and we will keep asking with Stacey. I'm so, this is our first time on TV with Stacey. We have had no problems at all. And now all of a sudden, but Stacey, thank you so much. We'll see you again next month.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure. Good to see you guys. Take care.
You're the best. That was Stacey Kemp Rouge and Green. Again, I'm sorry about the technical difficulties. It does happen. This is a live show, so things like this do happen. And thanks again for listening, and we will see you all next week with more Ask the Experts.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Experts show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.